Hello there, and welcome back to Let's Talk Assassin's Creed. This is episode 178, and it has actually been a while since we've recorded and since we've published anything. We've had summer holidays, family stuff, jobs around the house, but we are back. It is the 25th of September, and it has been a hell of a day of Assassin's Creed news. But before we get into that, I am joined by my old partner in crime, Declan.
I love being a partner in crime. It makes me sound sinister.
It's
Up
great,
to
mate. It's great, mate.
shenanigans.
We recorded in July, episode 177, Social Stealth, which had been a bit of a talking point in Shadows about it probably isn't there in any format that we would recognize. Um, so that was the last time we recorded together, and that was your sort of first time back after a long break. Now, Chris would normally join us, but he is busy this evening, and we wanted to catch up. We wanted to talk about the Shadows news. So, Chris, hope you're well, mate. We'll speak to you soon, of course. Um, there is something else I need to confess. We actually recorded 10 days ago, episode 178. We use Zoom for our recordings because it has a high quality audio option, which makes it really nice to edit with, and separate audio tracks. So we recorded it. It saves the files onto my PC. And I decided it was time to bite the bullet and upgrade to Windows 11. I backed up all my files like a good computer user. I did the upgrade, and then I did a complete wipe of Windows and reinstall from scratch, with all the tools and drivers and whatever. And the next day I thought, right, PC's back up and running. It's time to do the audio edit. And then I realized I'd screwed up. I hadn't backed up the audio file. So we'd spoken for about an hour and a half. We had a good conversation, and I completely messed it up. So we're back. Declan, like I said, today, 25th of September 2024, it's been a busy day of Assassin's Creed news. What's been going on?
Well, I'm going to curse our Discord server for this because they're the ones who've been jinxing it. But there's been a lot of talk about lack of marketing, and some fine folk in our Animus Hub Discord decided to claim that maybe the game's getting delayed. And lo and behold, the game has been officially delayed to February the 14th, which has annoyed me because I had £100 pre ordered, ready to go for November. Now we have to wait till February, which is going to be a long time for any Assassin's Creed content. So, whatever they're doing behind the scenes, I'm not impressed. I would have preferred clearer transparency than just a sudden out of the blue delay. It would have been nice for the company to be like, look, we've shown this all off, but we do need more time. We may look at delaying as an option. I know developers don't do that, but it would win consumer interest back if they were a little bit more transparent with what they're doing behind the scenes. But I could be wrong because I'm not a game developer. So I don't know the ins and outs of behind the scenes with investors and board and all that.
I think it's what you said there. It's the investor point that's probably the more serious one. Um, I, the news broke probably. What are we now? We're recording this at 8:30 in the evening. The news broke about 3 hours ago, less. I spotted it first on the Assassin's Creed subreddit. Um, so Ubisoft, they're a publicly traded company. They have certain requirements under French law to publish information to their shareholders. They have to publish end of year financial results, and also Ubisoft publish quarterly statements, and they're only like a page or two long, but it's basically a short summary of how much money have we made this quarter, what are we projecting next quarter, and then of course the market digests that information, and it's good, it's bad, share price goes up, down, whatever. So they Ubisoft are required to publish this information. Now, for Ubisoft, they published their quarter one summary in July. Their quarter two summary would have been due in, I think, October. So Their quarter would have been, I think, July, August, September, and then they would have published their next quarter statement early October. So looking back at the previous 3 months. But today they published, I suppose you'd call it an extraordinary or a one-off update, and basically quite significantly reducing how much they think they're going to earn in what they call Q2, so their second quarter of the current financial year. I got the numbers here earlier. So in Q1, they were predicting. Where did I put it? Where did I put it? One sec. In Q1, I think they were predicting about 500 million euros of revenue for Q2. So looking ahead to Q2, the statement they've issued today says that their revenue, they call it bookings, it might mean something slightly different, but we can think of it as sales. How much are we going to make from selling games, selling, battle passes and other microtransactions? They've revised that number down a lot. So from 500 million euros to 350 to 370. So that's 130 to 150 million euros less than they were forecasting. That's a big deal. And they've said that it's a really fascinating financial statement. For those who watch our episodes on YouTube, I'll put the link in the show notes and I'll put it on the YouTube video, but I'll put a screenshot up on the video as well. And I'm going to read this out actually, Declan, because it's fascinating to see this. So the company now expects net bookings for the second quarter to stand at around 350 to 370 million euros. The revised targets are mainly a reflection of decisions taken for Assassin's Creed Shadows and the softer than expected launch for Star Wars Outlaws. That's a very businessy way of saying we didn't sell as many copies of Outlaws as we thought. This is more interesting. Listening to players' feedback and as an illustration of our player-centric approach, the following important decisions relative to Assassin's Creed Shadows have been taken. Shadows will now be released on the 14th of Feb. The game is feature complete, but we are learning from Star Wars Outlaws release, which has led us to provide additional time to further polish the title. We are departing from our traditional Seasons Pass model. I think that's significant. All players will be able to enjoy the game at the same time on the 14th of Feb. Those who pre-order the game will be granted their first expansion for free. And the final point, which I have to say, I'm a PC gamer. Steam is the default game store for PC. Shadows will mark the return of our new releases to Steam on day one. That's huge. For a number of years now, I think Odyssey was the last Assassin's Creed game to launch on Steam. Valhalla and its expansions, and then Mirage, they were exclusive to the Epic Game Store for a long, long time before coming to Steam. And honestly, the Epic Game Store is just not where PC gamers go for their games. Anyway, so that's one thing. But these 3 points are just fascinating to me. So a delay to improve the quality of the title, changing how they're going to release. So normally Ubisoft, like many other companies, they will sell basically some early access 3 days, 7 days. That's not happening. And they're going to be Steam day one. And then you'll see here the follow-on chat paragraph is all about Outlaws not quite being what they expected. We could talk about Outlaws in a minute, but Declan, what do you think about those 3 main points? The delay, season pass changes, and then Steam day one.
I'm a bit concerned about the season pass changes because a typical Ubisoft season pass model is you buy the game, and if you pre-order a gold edition, which is £100, you'll get access to the season pass. You'll get both DLCs. If you look at this storefront now, which I've just pulled up on my Xbox quickly, they have the Ultimate Edition for £114, which will come with the season pass model, so 2 season passes, early access, the pre-order mission bonus, and some cosmetics for the base building. Then you've got standard for 70, which is just nothing except for the pre-order mission. and then Gold, which is 100, which I had, which was 3 days early access, which I needed because my internet is terrible. So I would have spent 3 days downloading it.
Got it. I've heard that from others as well. That's something that people will often do. They'll pay a little bit extra because they need to download it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and then that comes with the season pass and pre-order bonus. So my issue is if they're reducing the season pass model, what is the point in me spending £100 if I can pre-order it for 70 and get the first expansion free, and then just later down the line pay another 20 quid for the second expansion?
Yeah.
So the model is going to lose them money because they're going to have to revise the editions that are on the Play Store and the Xbox Store and the Steam Store. So I'm curious how that's going to reflect the pricing. The delay has annoyed me from both a content creator point of view because at this moment in time, Assassin's Creed's been in a lull. We've not had anything major since Mirage. So
Mhm.
the content we can do as content creators is limited by what's available. And
Yeah.
now with this longer delay till February, which is the major big release, there's a lot less more pressure on content creators who go off Assassin's Creed to now be doing crumb work because there's nothing major for us to discuss. Um, reception with Mirage, not Mirage, Outlaws. No offense, it's just their own fault because
Yeah.
I don't mean it harsh. It's as I said in the Discord group, I use Disney Plus with the ads edition, so it's only £5. I get an ad, and as we know, Disney owns the rights to Marvel, not Marvel, Star Wars. So I would have expected to see a lot of trailers marketing Star Wars Outlaws on that platform because it's where Star Wars lives. But the only reason I knew about Star Wars was because of Discord. There is a lot less advertisement on the industry anymore with digital marketing. So I think the reason the reception was lukewarm was because there was no advertisement. I barely saw it on YouTube till at least 2 weeks before release. So I would have expected them to have a big push on Disney Plus with like a banner saying pre-order the game, or even trailers sprinkled in because Disney does a lot of trailers for like Marvel projects that are not even out yet, but teaser trailers. They do a lot of trailers for upcoming Marvel and I mean Disney and Pixar movies. Ubisoft, who was probably got the licensing from LucasArts, could have had trailers sprinkled into Disney Plus that would have generated sales because it's where people go to watch Star Wars now. So if you're watching, let's say, A New Hope and the trailer comes up for Outlaws, you're immediately thinking, "Ooh, I might check that out because I've just watched New Hope. I'm excited for another part of Star Wars." And I think as well, Ubisoft kind of should have abandoned Outlaws because when you look at the big Star,
Abandoned is a big word. Go on.
it's just, it's like the whole problem I have with Ghost of Tsushima and Shadows. Tsushima overshadowed a lot of fans' reception for Shadows because they wanted a Assassin's Creed like Ghost of Tsushima. Now, when you think of Star Wars on console, you immediately think of Jedi Fallen Order, Star Wars Jedi Outlaw, not Outlaws, Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor, I think it is. The two,
Yeah, Fallen Order was the first one in that new series. That came out 2019, and then Jedi Survivor was the big release last year, or
yeah,
was it 2022? I mean, time flies, but yeah, those are the two games. And the third one has been sort of pretty much confirmed, sort of finished the trilogy. It's the Cal Kestis.
yeah.
He's the protagonist of those. Yeah,
So when you look at those big titles and then you look at all the other Star Wars games that have come in the past, they're all Jedi lightsabers. So Ubisoft try and do an open worldish game which pushes the boundaries of the universe is a smart move. But in a market where if you want a really good Star Wars game, you go to the Respawn titles, Fallen Order and stuff like that, because that's the Star Wars fantasy that a lot of players want. The Force powers, the lightsabers. So Outlaws may work better if it was a smaller linear title with a lot more focus on the stealth, maybe some choices, more agency from what I've watched of gameplay videos to the syndicate idea of being a rebel, basically. So I think with Outlaws going open world in a market where you could get a linear Jedi type game versus a kind of Ubisoft open world formula, which to this day and age has gotten a little bit stale. It's kind of given a lot of lukewarm reception. So it's a difficult market for Ubisoft to get into with big IPs like that. And I
Mm,
don't think it's fair that that's had an effect on Shadows because it's two different markets with two different demographics and two different sort of fan bases. If you know what I mean?
yeah, I know what you mean. I think I've played Outlaws. I've completed the main story. I haven't aimed for 100%, but I played it a little bit early. Chris and I got was it a week of early access? I think through the creators program. So we've both finished the main story. It's fun. It's not it's not The Witcher 3. It's not Skyrim. It's not Assassin's Creed Odyssey or Assassin's Creed Valhalla in terms of its content and depth, but it's a fun game. And I'm a Star Wars fan, and it it has great Star Wars vibes. It's got some great vocal performances. It looks gorgeous. It's not super mechanically complex. Like if you've come off the back of Mirage, if you're an Assassin's Creed player, you wouldn't. This is not a stealth game like Assassin's Creed is. It's quite simple. Um, so it's not an earth shattering game, but people are so quick to judge games as either awesome, 10 out of 10, or anything less than 10 out of 10 is trash and don't buy it. Now, honestly, I know everyone says it's a bit of a meme. It is a 7 out of 10 game or an 8 out of 10 game. It's good. It's fun. It's well made. Um, it doesn't deserve all the hate it's getting, but you do have a point about did they get the word out there? I don't know. I knew it was coming out because hey, look, you and I we sort of follow Ubisoft because we're here to talk about Assassin's Creed. So I knew that they were working on it. My personal opinion was I was going to get it next year or something. Um, we were fortunate to get it early, but it's a decent game. It doesn't deserve the negativity, but also people are just so much commentary just can't cope with that sort of middle ground of a game doesn't need to be perfect to just be a good time, be a good piece of entertainment. Um, it is interesting how much they've said that, and I'm going to read the sentence here. So this is from the financial statement. Despite solid ratings and user scores that reflect an immersive and authentic Star Wars universe, Star Wars Outlaws' initial sales proved softer than expected. In response to player feedback, Ubisoft's development teams are currently fully mobilized to swiftly implement a series of updates to polish and improve the player experience in order to engage a large audience during the holiday season to position Outlaws as a strong long term performer. The game will be available on Steam on November 21st. My only thought there is does that mean they're going to pull some people from Assassin's Creed development? Is that why Outlaws has been delayed? I know in the previous paragraph he said that we need to polish Shadows more, but are they trying to rush work through on Outlaws to get Outlaws ready for Christmas, and then they'll switch focus back to finishing, you know, final production on Shadows. Um, I guess it's interesting. Their feedback is not as high as they thought, but I thought it was a decent game. It's
I've
such a hard conversation though, because is it worth $60, $70? I don't know. Um, maybe not. If you're a Star Wars fan, it is because it's a really fun, immersive, enjoyable Star Wars experience.
I think the issue really is that, in my opinion, Ubisoft needs to take a step back for a second and evaluate less about products and games and more on how the industry is now working with fans and player engagement. And I think there's huge price hike to £70 has put a lot of gamers off because it's a huge amount of money.
Yeah, yeah, it
And
is.
when you look at how stacked 2024 is, I'm just currently on the Xbox store looking at some of the pre-orders. Star Wars Fallen Order isn't up there with games like Eternium, which is an Amazon's next game, Metaphor Refantasy, which is a Persona 5 developer.
Mm,
Persona 5 is one of the best-selling JRPGs out there. So with people seeing Metaphor Refantasio, which is going to be the next Persona 5 developer game for £60, or a Ubisoft Star Wars game where Ubisoft hasn't had the best track record lately, people are now like trying to think of where to put that money at, if that makes
yeah,
sense. So when
yeah.
you look at all the big titles coming out, it's harder for games now to keep up with what's going on. And Call of Duty Black Ops 6 is coming out. That's going to dominate space for a lot of players.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
Life is Strange is coming out soon as well.
Yes, yes.
Uh, Dragon Age Veilguard will be coming out soon as
That's
well, which
coming out
is
soon. Yeah, yeah.
so. I think yes, looking at how stacked Dragon Age Veilguard is. I think the 10th, the 30th Halloween this year. So you'll have that to compete with. Dragon Age Quest is getting a remake for November, so you'll have that to contend with. So maybe moving it away from all these big releases is a smart idea.
Mm,
But when you look at um, Outlaws, that was slap bang middle of the year, where players are already focusing on the big kind of next gen stuff that's coming out during the holiday period. So
yeah.
it's one of those moments where people are like, well, do we want to go buy Outlaws for £70 or a new title with a well-renowned developer like Atlas who does Persona or Don't Nod who does Life is Strange? It's now a pick and choose, and I think Ubisoft needs to take a step back and realize that yes, you need to make money. Yes, you've got investments to please and all that, but you need to start expanding your IP base
Well,
because
that is a
that
good point.
because at the moment, one of the best-selling games for Ubisoft was Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown because it was a more two 3D Metrovania style game, and it sold because it wasn't their archaic open world go here go there formula. It was a proper nail biting Metrovania style game that I've
Hmm.
played, and it's phenomenal. And then
But
you go,
apparently, it didn't sell as well as they thought it would, which is sad.
I think that's because their expectations are probably too high. No
Yeah,
offense. Like,
yeah.
no offense to Ubisoft because I love them as a developer because I love some of the games they make, but they're competing against giants like Nintendo, Microsoft, Sony. All them have been pushing out some amazing games like Last of Us, Horizon Zero Dawn, God of War Ragnarok that's now gone on PC, so it's going to be phenomenal. I think
Hmm.
Ubisoft really needs to realize that they may not be able to get to the level of them developers at this moment in time because them developers are hitting true next gen games. So be content with a realistic sell price, focus on different IPs because they've got a lot of IPs they're not using, like Rayman, Might and Magic still has got nothing. The Anno series,
Mm,
Settlers. There's a lot of
mm,
IPs Ubisoft could go with, but I think they always do their sale projections a lot higher than they should be. So I think
yeah.
maybe I don't think it's fair that Shadows has been knocked back using Outlaws as a scapegoat. I think it's probably done because looking at the pre-orders, this year is going to be stacked already. Shadows cannot, no offense, compete with something like Dragon Age Veilguard, which is the next BioWare Dragon Age game. Like nothing's competing with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think personally, Ubisoft should maybe start giving like a bit more lower than expected with their investors because their IPs are kind of 2D at this point. There's not as many as other developers are doing at the moment. So
They definitely trimmed down the number of products and franchises they're developing, haven't they?
yeah, and
It's a lot of it. I mean, it's Outlaws and Assassin's Creed. X Defiant is their um, online game as a service, and then like you said, there's the really small projects like Prince of Persia, like Beyond Good and Evil remastered. You've got Mario Rabbids in there. You've got Just Dance, but those are all much smaller parts of their thing. But it's with so much focus or so much of their revenue depends on Assassin's Creed. When it delays, it's huge. The only thing I do think is, and it's really hard to separate proper criticism and thought from just internet noise. But Ubisoft's reputation is not good. Their games are criticized for being formulaic, for having bugs, for not being that innovative or interesting to play. And maybe over many years of people having that impression, it's finally catching up with them. Um, if you read the statement, so there was an internal memo from Yves Guillemot to the Ubisoft employees that's been leaked. It's on insidergaming.com. I'll put a screenshot in the video. Um, it reads like basically, and of course it depends on the execs. The execs have to learn the lessons in order to tell their teams you are now focusing on this. Maybe the message has finally filtered up to the top that these products are not as good as they should be. And I maybe look at it like this: they are learning the lessons of Outlaws, that it could have been better, it could have been more polished, it could have had better NPC AI. That's something they call out here because the NPCs are dumb as shit in Outlaws. They really are. Um, maybe maybe this is that realization moment that actually quality products matter, and it's better to delay. And maybe Shadows will be better for it. I'm personally fine with a delay. If it's longer to get ready, that suits me fine. I don't mind if Shadows is delayed. Now, of course, I'm not a shareholder or an employee, whose bonus depends on the game being on time. I'm just a consumer, but I'm in no rush. I'm looking forward to Shadows. I think what we've seen looks great so far. And if it arrives in an even better state, that's fine. Um, so I see it more as lessons learned, and I mean, also, we can't afford for Shadows to be trashed on day one.
No.
And again, this is that kind of gamer discourse, which I have to say, in the last year or so, I'm less and less interested in because it's just so frustrating. I guess we're taking part in it, which makes me a hypocrite. Anyway, um, you saw it with. Did you see all the news about Concord, the new Sony hero shooter?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it launched on PlayStation and PC, and you could buy it on Steam, and I think you could buy it on Epic Games. The problem, if you like, with launching it on Steam is Steam reviews are public. All of the Steam player data, I don't mean individual data, but the numbers of players are all public. Um, so if Shadows launches and it has launch bugs, it has performance bugs, it has quest bugs, people are going to express that very clearly in the Steam reviews, and the player counts will be public because they're all on the Steam database, which you can view quite easily. Um, so going to Steam on day one actually is quite interesting because it's quite almost, I was going to say brave, but it is almost brave because if this game is not good at launch, people are going to express it and that data is going to be public. Epic, you can't get the same metrics from the Epic Game Store, but Steam is much more open. So they have got to, my point is, they have got to nail this day one. It's got to be high quality. People have got to have a good sort of first run experience. There is something we need to discuss in a minute, but yeah, and they need to see those player numbers. They need to see people buying the game and enjoying it. Um, this all leads on to the other point. What does this mean for Infinity? And we should say that Infinity is has been renamed. I think this is public. I'm not sure if this is confirmed or not, but it's been reported that Infinity is going to be called the Animus Hub, which is quite funny because our own Discord for this show is called the Animus Hub. But anyway, um, the Animus Hub is going to be the place where the modern day story is kept. So the modern day will advance somehow. We don't know how yet in the Animus Hub, and the games will be sort of strictly that historical action adventure part of Assassin's Creed. Shadows was going to be the first game on the Animus Hub. Is the delay, is the Animus Hub ready? Will the Animus Hub launch early and then Shadows will launch later? Will it launch day one? Will Shadows launch without the Animus Hub on day one? Again, maybe to have that day one experience be as smooth as possible, because some players are just going to want to play their Japanese adventure game and they're not going to care about the modern day and the deep aspects of the Animus lore. So it'll be fascinating to see how the Animus Hub launches as well. What do you think, mate?
I personally think the Animus Hub may get scrapped at this point. And
Okay.
I think, no offense to Ubisoft, I like what they were trying to do, but I think at this point the Animus Hub's idea needs to be scrapped until they can figure out what they're doing. Because if you look closely at the time frame between Red being announced as Red
Yeah.
and the Infinity being announced, we know more about Red and Hexe than we do about Infinity. Like, Hexe has no news, but the community worked their butts off to figure out the clues in that 1 second teaser of Hexe. But to this day, we know nothing about Infinity. We just know it's a hub. But how's the hub going to look? Is it going to be a separate download? Is it going to be you buy the game and it's in like a little window on the side so you get taken to a website? Is it going to be a hub they have to buy separately and then you download it on your console? Then when you open the hub like Netflix, you get all the different stuff.
Yeah.
What's it going
Yeah.
to be? At this point, it's so ambiguous and ambitious that I believe that Ubisoft should be focusing more on developing the games and going forward as a developer and less on trying to do an innovative idea that may not hit well. Like it worked with the Master Chief Collection for Halo, where you load it up and you get a hub with all the different games. But that's because they're smaller remastered titles. They're all there. Mass Effect, the Legendary Edition, that also you load it up and you have free titles that you can install separately for each game. But they're smaller titles because they're from the 360 era. Yes, they've got a lot like 4K updates and stuff, but their coding size will be a lot smaller than a game developed for the Series X because that's going to need a lot more code and more processing for the details. So at this point, I think Infinity, or well, Hub, probably needs scrapped. They can finally nail down what it's going to be because if you release Shadows and then the Animus Hub's there on the side and people have no idea what the hell it is, the game's going to receive tons of backlash for it because you've tacked on a feature that is not working or not filled out, and it's just going to ruin the experience for Shadow because you could load it up and there'd be no modern day ready for it yet. So people are like, well, what's this bare bones thing doing there? Like, do we need it? So, it's going to have more of a negative impact on sales if they don't explain what it is
Yeah.
before
Yeah.
Shadows releases.
You're right. The messaging of what this thing is going to have to be really clear. And the user experience of how does it launch? Is it going to be like another launcher? So you've got Ubisoft Connect, but then you've got the Animus Hub for your Assassin's Creed games. Or like you say, is it a website? Is it something else? I don't know, but it's going to have to be a lot of work is needed to make that really clear to, let's be honest, I'm sure us two and most people listening, we're here for the real in-depth stories and all the rest of it. But for the more casual fans who enjoy the historical tourism aspect, are they going to care? Probably not. For them, the Animus Hub might be something they never log into or care about. Um, there's a lot to think about, and the other thing is with Shadows being delayed, we have to assume Hexe was going to be 2026. That's probably not impacted, but yeah, a lot of stuff is up in the air. Um, But it's funny, Assassin's Creed in general, I feel like it's been a real lull in activity recently. Um, the third of the Fragments novels was delayed. We have got some comics coming out that follow some of the characters from Mirage. So Falad and Roshan. There's a trilogy of comics coming out. But actually, it's been quite a real quiet period, hasn't it? Not just games, as we've been talking, but other stuff as well. I must admit, I haven't really touched any Assassin's Creed stuff since I did my permadeath run in Mirage, which would be 3 or 4 months ago now. What about you? Have you been following the transmedia stuff? Have you seen anything new?
Um, so I can't follow the transmedia stuff anymore because my eyes were open to a unique app called Marvel Unlimited. And there's a reason I'm going with this. And basically, with Marvel Unlimited, you pay a price, £10, and you get every Marvel comic they've ever put on there from the 60s upwards. So when you go from like a transmedia point of view to uh, multi-conglomerate comics, having one app to get them all, perfect. You then look at Assassin's Creed, and as someone who's wanted the comics himself, finding the comics and collecting them is an arduous project that is
Yes,
very
yes.
expensive. So
Mm,
unless they did something where Ubisoft made a comic app where you could read every comic and you pay a subscription, the comics are, in my opinion, a niche market for comic book lovers. They're not interesting enough to go out and buy because finding them is a blooming nightmare and a half. Like half of them, like I think one of the Valhalla ones was on the internet for 50 quid from Amazon.
wow.
Yeah. And I was like, I'm not paying that for a comic, when I could spend £10 and get 3,000 plus Marvel comics from the 1960s to modern day. It's just, I like the idea of Assassin's Creed Transmedia, but to find them all, collect them all is an arduous project. And I own every novel up to Mirage, so with the Daughter of No One. And to get all them, I got a lot of them secondhand, and that was a
Mm,
bloody mission to
mm.
find them. And to even find decent copies of like the very first Assassin's Creed novel was next to impossible. Like online had it for like 60 quid at one point. So at this point, I think I'm done with the transmedia because it's really too hard to get. And the last transmedia I got for it was The Highway Children from the Scottish one from Fragments.
Oh
And
yeah, yeah, yeah.
personally, it felt more of a historical fiction than an
It
Assassin's Creed
was.
story. It
It
was
was.
just on the level of um, is it the Engines of History trilogy that we don't know anything about?
You mean the Magus conspiracy
Yes,
and that stuff? Yeah, it was.
yeah,
You're right. There was no modern day. It was a strict historical adventure. Yeah.
but you could feel the Assassin's Creed energy running through it. There was no forced like, oh look, this is an artifact. It could be an Isu. It flowed dynamically to the point of when you read it, you knew it was an Assassin's Creed novel. But
Mm,
with the
mm.
Highland Children, I've read it 3 times, and I still don't know how it's an Assassin's Creed novel. There's no. It just feels like a fantasy RPG with assassins. Like there's nothing
Oh, really? You
grounded.
didn't like it then? I thought it was decent enough. I enjoyed it. It was a good little historical adventure. It was an Assassin's Creed adventure, but you didn't like it.
Personally, as a historical adventure, I loved it. I love like the
Okay.
history and all that, and I really enjoyed it. But I didn't get Assassin's Creed from it.
Oh, okay.
That was the problem. Like a lot of the stuff they were talking about, it just didn't feel Assassin's Creed. I felt like I could have written that as a fantasy RPG, and people would have not seen the difference, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Whereas
Okay.
if you look at the Mage's Conspiracy, it felt like an Assassin's Creed with the energy, the
Yeah. Yeah. I know what
description.
you mean. I know what you
It,
mean.
I'm not going to knock the book because I did enjoy the book for a historical fiction. It was fun, but it just didn't lack an Assassin's Creed feel to me. So since
Mm,
then, I'm just not really excited about the
mm.
transmedia, which is a
Fair
downer.
enough. Fair enough. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So let's try to wrap up. So bigger announcement through their sort of financial statements that Shadows has been delayed until 14th of Feb 2025. That's Valentine's Day, at least here in the sort of Western world. Um, Outlaws got pretty the criticism of Outlaws in that statement is very clear. You know, it didn't meet their sales objectives. They're going to invest a lot of dev time in fixing and improving the game. And then they said for Outlaws that there is a follow up statement. This is in Yves Guillemot's internal memo to Ubisoft employees, which has been leaked. Um, I forget the sentence. Oh, here we go. I'm going to read it to you. So, blah, blah, blah. We decided to delay Shadows to February 14th. Fine. The game is already playable and of high quality and has all the features the team wanted to integrate into this ambitious experience. So that's an important point. The game is feature complete. Now, we would expect that already. You know, we're only a couple of months to the originally planned launch, and you wouldn't be adding major gameplay modules and systems at this late stage. But it's feature complete. It is just bug fixing and improvement of what's already there, which is great. Um, we don't know what it means for the Animus Hub. There's been no statement on that. We know that we saw it. There was news yesterday that press reviews have been cancelled. Now we know why. Um, Ubisoft pulled out of the Tokyo Games show, which is in a few weeks' time, I think. So yeah, we're heading into we have had a bit of a lull in Assassin's Creed stuff, and it's going to continue now for what, 4 more months. So I'll tell you what we should do. We should switch to our other topics, because you see, again, we recorded this conversation 10 days ago and we lost it. We had a bit of a chat about what else have we been playing, and we're going to be playing more other games, I think, to fill in the time. So I'll tell you what we'll do, Declan. I put this question out on YouTube before we recorded last time. Let's go back through it and see what others have been playing, and then we can share as well. So I put the question out to listeners on YouTube. What have you been playing? What have you been enjoying? So let's go through the list. Dogfish Squid says, I've been playing The Sims because I am sad. Nothing sad about The Sims. Very immersive game. Which Dogfish has got a question for us. Out of all the main characters of Assassin's Creed games, who would enjoy playing their game the most?
Jacob from Syndicate. Honestly, come on, the
Yeah,
commentary.
yeah, that's true. That's true. I would have said Basim, because he would have understood from all his time in Yggdrasil what a game, what a virtual sort of reality is, what a game is. And I think he's kind of sort of loves himself, and the fact that there'd be a game featuring him, that would appeal to his ego, I think. But yeah, that's a good question. Um, I think you'd never be able to explain the concept to someone like Altair, would you? Just too much time has passed. But I like that. Jacob would definitely enjoy that as well. Beating up more rooks. No, not rooks. The others. The rooks were his gang. Was it blighters?
Lighters.
Oh my
Yeah, the
god, I can't believe
blighters.
I forgot that. What an idiot. All right. Hooded Shadow. Hooded Shadow says, I've played Banisher's Ghost of New Eden, and it's been an incredible narrative experience so far. I'm getting through my backlog of games, but also revisiting AC Unity. I just love the parkour in that game. Thumbs up from me. What's your temperature? Now, of course, this question was this answer, all these answers were posted 2 weeks ago. Hooded Shadow then says, what's your temperature on Shadows? I'm pretty underwhelmed by everything I've read, and the marketing has been abysmal. Do you know what, Hooded Shadow? That was a fair question 2 weeks ago. A lot has changed since then. But I will say one thing, right? So Hooded Shadow here mentioned Banisher's Ghost of New Eden. Now, we recorded our answers previously. I There is a demo of Banisher's Ghost of New Eden on Steam. I assume the demo is available on other platforms as well. I played the demo. It is my kind of game. I thought it was really interesting. I don't think it, again, not a revolutionary game. I think it's just sort of normal third person action adventure. You're dealing with spirits and ghosts and stuff, but it's got good vibes. So I'm definitely I've got it on my wish list. I'm not going to buy it right now because I've got plenty of other games in my backlog, but I will buy it at some point. I think it looks really interesting, and I like the two lead characters. What about you, Declan? Have you tried Banishers?
No, and sadly there isn't a demo on console. I had a
Ah,
look. But I have seen Let's Plays, and I was nearly crying from some of the Let's Plays because it looks
Oh
really
wow.
emotional. And
Right.
it is on my wish list because it's
Nice.
Don't Nod. My
It
second
is
favorite
Don't Nod. I
developers.
like Don't Nod's games. So yeah, it's been something I've been watching for a while. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Six Keys says I've been playing Breath of the Wild for the first time. I'm enjoying it so far, but with some caveats. Um, I'll say this: aside from my wife loving Animal Crossing on the Switch, I have never actually played a Nintendo game, so I'm the wrong person to ask. Declan, Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, all those games. You into those?
Breath of the Wild is fun. I just didn't like the weapon breaking system.
Right.
It felt too tacked on, and you could go hours without finding another weapon. So if you're getting chased by goblins, you're like, well, I'm screwed. I can't punch his back.
So what do you do then? Just have to keep running.
Yeah, so you can find a weapon,
That's
but you
terrible.
can't
Where's the fun in
buy
that?
you can't buy weapons.
Oh, jeez. Okay. Okay. Yeah. I know that they're sort of. Hey, it's my God, what's the name of the whole franchise that they're under? Um, yeah, I really don't know Nintendo at all. Anyway, do you
Legend
know what?
of
Let's move
Zelda.
on before I embarrass myself. The final comment we got is from Adam Aircraft, who we had on the show a few months ago. I recently got back into Mirror's Edge Catalyst after playing it and dropping it, but I'm loving it so far. It's simple, but I think that's its advantage. The city is a gorgeous parkour playground, and the gameplay scratches an itch that I have for mastery that I haven't felt since Batman Arkham Knight. That's high praise. I've played Mirror's Edge Catalyst. I didn't really like the story, but the gameplay and the visuals are fantastic. What about you, mate? You played it?
I played it on, I think it was PlayStation 3 when it
Mm.
came out, and I was proper terrified because it was motion control back then, and I was sweating trying to get the motion controls
Or
lined
was
up.
that the original one, or was that Catalyst?
I think that was the original and Catalyst. I think Catalyst also
Okay.
had motion controls, but I can't
Yeah.
remember now.
Yeah.
But it's really good.
Mm. Mm. Yeah. I'll be honest, I was quite scathing of it when I finished it. I think because the story's kind of, it's just it's full of tropes, but actually, I was probably a bit harsh on it. And it is a heck of a city to explore. The free running is great. Yeah, yeah. What else have you been playing? What caught your eye?
I've been playing Forza Horizon 4 lately.
Oh yeah,
Picked that up for a couple of quid in a second-hand shop, and it's I'm starting to hate it because it has an
okay.
uncanny valley effect because it's set in the UK
Mm,
and it's a squashed map, yes, but they have a level of detail for some of the locations that is terrifying because you can drive through Ambleside, which is a real life village in Cumbria. I have visited loads, and do you know how scary it is driving through Ambleside in a video game in a
oh
Lamborghini
wow,
at
yeah.
100 miles per hour when you walk through there and you're like, oh, I know that pub. I know that patch of grass. It's like, no, but
That's funny.
just mindless fun. And other than that, nothing's caught my eye that much.
Okay.
Um, Age of Mythology has been a lot of fun, but I feel like I'm in a lull with gaming because
Mm,
there's nothing been exciting till next couple of weeks. Another game will come out that I want to play that's got my hype.
oh yeah, yeah.
So hopefully that launches to good success, but it's going to take me 5 days to download. So wish me luck.
5 days, oh mate.
Yeah.
um, like you, I've been in a bit of a lull. I mean, played Outlaws. I enjoyed it. I keep jumping around between different games and not really connecting with a lot of them. Um, I played Hi-Fi Rush a few months ago, played that through to the end. That is brilliant. I did a video review of that on our channel, but I tell you, if you get that, I think it's on Game Pass. Have you played it? It is
Yes.
fantastic.
I played it when I last had Game Pass and completed it, and it was
Nice.
phenomenal.
Yeah, yeah. I played a couple of more puzzle-like games, which are just too hard for me. So I played Chance of Senar, which is like a language decoding game. and then Jusant. Now, Jusant is another Don't Nod game. It's a sort of it's a climbing game, but with heavy story. And I'm afraid I just got stuck. I didn't know how to proceed. But also, it's quite a slow. I think it's intended to be slow, more Zen-like game, but actually, it was a bit too slow for me, and I was bored. I've been in a bit of a mood this year where if something's not hooking me, I just move on. Whereas last year, pretty much I completed every game that I started because I really wanted to sort of do that. But this year I'm a bit more like, nah. Like on the PlayStation, I think it was the PlayStation. I got no, it wasn't, it was on PC. I got Saints Row, I think very, very, very cheap on a Steam sale. Literally a couple of pounds. And I played it, and within 15 minutes, I knew wasn't going to like it. So I just stopped, uninstalled it, and moved on. Um, Outlaws, I've said. What I have completed, I this is again, this started only 2 weeks ago. I really fancy just going back to a sort of a proper linear single player game. So I replayed Uncharted 4, but I did it on the crushing difficulty, which is the hardest difficulty. Really just to set myself a challenge, and I completed it. I'm very pleased with myself, and it was a lot of fun to go back and replay. So yeah, that's what I've been playing recently. And I'm just doing Lost Legacy now as well. So the expansion to Thief's End, which again I'm just doing as sort of a trying to do a completionist run, but there are so many achievements. I don't think I'll do it. I think I'll definitely complete the story again because it's a really good story, but I probably won't bother trying all the trophies. I would assume as a former PlayStation man, you've played the Uncharted games.
I did. I played the trilogy, and it was kind of really good. I really enjoyed the story and the gameplay.
Mm,
It was
mm.
no offense to PlayStation, but it's my favorite franchise from them. It's just pure fun.
It is, isn't it? It is.
Um, so there was another game I talked about 10 days ago, and I've just remembered.
Mm.
Did you check out the video I sent for Marvel's Midnight Suns?
Now, we right, you've prompted a memory. We did speak about this the first time we recorded before I deleted the files. Um, it's a deck building game, is that right?
Yeah,
All right, you're gonna have to talk me through it because I'm not familiar with deck builders.
deck building RPG friend sim. That's uh,
Interesting.
basically it's tactical turn-based gameplay where you use a deck of cards which have abilities on them to complete objectives like defeat 10 enemies, but you want to get three card plays, one movement, and heroic points that allow you to do environmental actions. I know I sent a gameplay clip of Wolverine in the chat after we did it, and honestly, I've nearly completed it, and probably the first game I've completed in a year
Oh wow, right, okay.
because nothing's been grabbing my attention, and I've been playing a lot
Mm,
of
mm.
live service games, so a lot of like open-ended games that you can't really complete just because they're fun. And no offense, I'm gonna get a lot of flack for this, but I can't seem to get into Mass Effect.
Ooh. Not every game's for everyone. Don't worry about it.
I bought Legend Edition and I've been playing Mass Effect 1, but it's not hooking us as I would like it to be. So it's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
sat there. Whereas like Marvel Midnight Suns is more my cup of tea because I get to like friendship with these Marvel characters. And
Mm.
when I want to chill, I just go on Forza and drive around England and try not to crash into trees, which I have a habit of doing a lot. But you get points for it. So it's like,
Happy
do I
days.
do I drive sensibly and get no points, or do I get points for crashing into trees? It's like, okay, what do you want me to do? Be sensible and drive normally in this Lamborghini, or ram it through a hedge wall and get 10 points?
As long as you enjoyed it, mate. That's the main thing. We don't need to do anything that we're not enjoying, right?
Yeah,
Um, like I say, I've been a lot more selective about what I play and what I sort of force myself to keep playing. If I'm not enjoying it, move on. Um, yeah, I'm with you there.
I think I'm just waiting for my friend to give me my copy of Code Vein back, and then I'll have something interesting to play. But so like an anime-esque Souls-like and
Okay,
about vampires, right up my alley. Supernatural.
perfect,
My friend stole a
perfect.
copy of it like 3 weeks ago to play, and I still hasn't returned it. So,
Oh, okay, so they're enjoying it.
yeah, and I'm like, can I have it back now? I want to play it. Give me my game back.
Yeah. I'll tell you something I learned just yesterday. So I played Resident Evil 4, the remake, a few months ago now. Really, really, really enjoyed it. It's bonkers, but it's very fun to play. I didn't realize there was an expansion for it, so I bought the expansion yesterday. It's only £8, and I thought I enjoyed the game so much, I'll get the expansion. So I'm going to download that again and play that soon. I might even see if I can set it up on the Steam Deck and see how it plays. So yeah, that's something on my list. Shadows is delayed, but there are so many games to play, aren't there? We're not going to run out of things to do. That's for sure.
Well, I've just got a notification as we're talking on Xbox now because I did it for Steam. The Shadow Storefront. Throne and Liberty comes out in a couple of weeks,
Okay.
and it's like a free-to-play big MMO PvP style PvE game where you can siege castles with 200 players. So while I'm waiting for Shadows, I think I'll be like joining 200 players trying to take down a castle,
Nice.
realizing I can't play the game and going back on the racing game. But it's free. And
That's
then
funny.
obviously Genshin Impact finally comes to Xbox this year, so I'm excited for that because I loved it on PlayStation 4.
Has it not been available on Xbox then?
No, so when it released, it was mobile only. Then it
Yeah.
was PC.
Yeah.
Then it was PlayStation locked with, I think, Aloy was a playable character for it as well to
Okay.
celebrate PlayStation. Then they said we'll bring it to Nintendo, but not Xbox. And now 4 years later, they're like, oh yeah, Xbox is coming, but not Nintendo. So I'm like,
Right.
it's free to play. I played about 200 hours on PlayStation 4
Hmm.
because it's free to play open world anime RPG, and it's coming to Xbox. So that comes out in November. So
Nice.
I'll just switch one RPG for another. One's free, one's going to cost me 70 quid. So
Mm.
I'm, I'm
Yeah.
annoyed that I can't
Yeah.
play Shadows, but I've got plenty to do.
That's it, mate. That's how I'm feeling. So I just hope that, the dev team are all right, that they get in the time to make Shadows as good as it can be.
I just,
And they have a
I just hope they
successful
don't go
release.
through crunch.
Uh,
I hope
yeah.
they're safe. Like
Yeah.
plenty of coffee, plenty of donuts, relax.
I feel the same as you, but I fear that that is almost unavoidable, unfortunately, and that makes me sad. But
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, I think we should wrap this up. We've been not quite an hour, but do you know what? That's long enough for a first episode back. Um, we've spoken about this already. So, what are we planning to do for the show? We've had quite a long summer break, longer than we'd planned. Chris couldn't join us tonight. He's busy doing other stuff, but you're going to hear from Chris again soon, and Declan and I. We do want to get back to our regular fortnightly release schedule. We're really going to try to do that. We have some ideas of things we want to talk about over the next few months. Well, I definitely do, Declan. I do want to replay Revelations. I've not replayed it properly. I've only played it once actually, and I do want to replay it. And I think we should do a Revelations revisited at some point soon, just for fun.
I think we should, but I'm kind of scared because my favorite part of Revelations always was the tower defense game. So
I really enjoyed it. Yes,
same. It was just,
yes.
it was like cheesy fun.
Yeah, it's all good. We can do that. We can have some fun, you know.
Yeah. I'll re-download
Um,
the Actio collection, and by the time it's downloaded, we'll be ready to record it.
have you got that on your Xbox?
Yeah, I got the Actio
Perfect.
collection, but it's
Perfect.
digital, so my Wi-Fi speed is kind of gets the highest of 10 megabits per second.
Okay. Yeah, it's gonna take a
So
while.
yeah, it's gonna take about a couple of days.
Mm, mm.
24/7 download.
Oof. Well, I suppose you can leave it running, can't you, and go
Yeah.
do other stuff. So yeah, yeah. All right, mate. Well, it's good to catch up. Good to speak again. I need to get this episode edited and polished and published. And yeah, we'll be back in the next few weeks.
And I'm excited.
See you soon. Bye
See
bye.
you soon, buddy.